Hey everyone, this is Adam Yurchik, recording for TCGplayer.com. Today we're going to be drafting 10th edition on Magic Online, and I'm excited to get started. So let's hop in the queue and get into it. So we opened a Shivan Dragon, one of the most iconic cards in Magic. That's a pretty fitting start to this draft. And as a huge flying creature, it's definitely something I'm going to consider taking. Let's move through the pack. There's a Might Weaver. That's a playable green card. It's a 2-mana creature, which is great, and then it has a reasonable ability of giving something else trample. Relentless Rats, best in multiples. It's uncommon, not something we're going to see a lot of. So it's not something we really want. Shatterstorm, I'm not interested in. Crafty Path Mage, not great. Taras Crocodile, 5-1 for 4. It's somewhat flimsy. Festering Goblin, a nice playable black card. Fist of the Anvil, decent red trick. Giant Spider, very solid green creature. That's the card that would stand out the most so far besides the dragon. Incinerate, now that's a great red card. The best red common. And then some more playable cards, including Remove Soul. I'm just going to take the dragon. Let's see what we can do with it. I'm not going to turn down the dragon. So here, Beacon of Immortality. We can double our life total. It costs 6 mana. It's a playable card, but not ideal. Unless I have a really controlling deck. A red uncommon, Arcane Teachings, that makes a creature into a pinger. And it also gives it +2/+2. So it has 2 uses. It can make a creature more aggressive, or in a ground stall, it turns it into a blocker that can start pinging things. Inaba Bodyguard, 4 mana, 2/3 first strike. That's a solid playable card in red, but it's a bit expensive. Goblin Elite Infantry, it's 2/2, but if it gets into combat, it shrinks, so it's not a great card. Rootwalla I like. It's a nice green creature that holds the board down. I like red-green. The other card I like is Sift. I'm going to take the Rootwalla. I've had good experience with it. I know it's a little bit worse now without damage on the stack, but I'm willing to give it a try. So here we have Shock. That's great. We passed up the Incinerate. Shock is a nice way to get some removal into the deck. There's also Kavu Climber, which is a 5 mana 3/3 that draws a card. And in core formats like this, drawing a card is great. So that's definitely a card I'm interested in taking. So it's between that and the Shock, I think. There's also Stampeding Wildebeest, which is a 5/4 trample for 4, but I have to return a green creature to my hand every turn. That could be great, could be bad. I don't think it's something I want to take right here. I'm erring towards the Shock here because creature removal is hard to come by. And while Kavu Climber is great, it's expensive, and I'll be able to get expensive cards. So I'm going to reluctantly pass the Climber and take the Shock. Could also argue for the Climber in case I want to get rid of red, or for the Shock in case I don't want to be green. Avatar of Might. It's an 8 mana 8/8 that if your opponent has a lot of creatures can be cheaper. For all purposes, it's an 8 mana 8/8, so it's not something I really want. Rushwood Dryad is a 2 mana 2/1 with Forest Walk. Also Phyrexian Rager, which draws a card. It's a great card. It's like Kavu Climber, but cheaper. Also, Treetop Bracers is pretty playable. It gets a creature through. You can put that on a root wall and end the game quickly, and I remember that card being nice. But I'm just going to go with the 2 mana creature for my deck. Stay on curve. Here we have Penniless Knight, a 3 mana 2/2 flash first strike. That's a decent white card. In green red, we have Treetop Bracers, and then Goblin Sky Raider, which is not playable. Usually. Certainly could have uses, but it's not something I really want. I think I'm just going to take the Treetop Bracers. I could go into another color, take the Knight. Afflict is playable, but I think the Bracers will be good for me. Here we have Rampant Growth. Love that card. That accelerates me towards my dragon and towards my bit high-end green cards. There's also a Hill Giant, which is playable. Sylvan Scrying. It's not so exciting because it doesn't put a land into play. So it puts a land in your hand, but that doesn't get me anywhere. I might as well just play a land instead of Sylvan Scrying. And I'm not looking to splash. And if I am, Rampant Growth will do the job for me. So I'm just going to take the Sky Hunter Prowler. It's the best card in the pack, but really none of these cards are great. Looming Shade, I suppose. Bloodrock Cyclops, 3 mana, 3/3, attacks each turn if able. Surprisingly strong card. Attacking each turn if able isn't so bad with a large creature, and if I can put something like Treetop Bracers on it, it's no problem at all. So I'm going to happily take this. That's a great late pickup, and I'm going to focus my deck towards being aggressive to make the most of it. And there's Might Weaver, another 2 mana creature. Also gives Trample, which could be useful. Great pickup. Goblin Elite Infantry. Aggressive 2-drop, but really risky card. Or rather, it doesn't do much all the time. But I think it's better than Fist of the Anvil, which is not a super great card. So I'll take the infantry. It could be good against decks without a lot of creatures. And I'll take Raging Goblin for the board. And Lightning Elemental could definitely be playable. So I think this is working out relatively well. I haven't seen a ton of other cards that have drawn me to other colors. There were some decent blue cards in the beginning, but they dried up immediately. Nothing white stood out to me. And there were a few playable black cards, but nothing that strong. And black is a color I like to be heavy into if I am playing black, because there's a lot of cards that pay you for that, like the Shade that we saw. So we have one of the best possible cards for a green aggressive deck and a green-red aggressive deck in Overrun. That is an excellent open, and it's going to go very well with that Shivan Dragon, so we're going to pick that up. There's a Rampant Growth we could hope to table. There's also Canopy Spider, which is nice 2-drop I would play. And there's a Hill Giant, which could make the cut. Whisper Silk Cloak is also a consideration in a deck like this. You can push through creatures like Bloodrock Cyclops. So let's take the Overrun. Now I'm going to want to take as many creatures as I can get. So here's Shock, but I think I want the Root Walla just to beef up my creature count and make Overrun that much better. I really want as many creatures as I can now. That way Overrun really does end the game whenever I cast it. So Root Walla. Obviously, a very dry pack. There's that Goblin Sky Raider. When you have Overrun, a creature like that could actually be a consideration. It gets in for damage, and then when you draw Overrun, it hits for a lot. Hope to not play it, but I think it's going to be my pick here. None of these other cards can make the deck. I think probably the best plan is actually to just take cards to splash, to start taking blue cards. We cut blue, maybe we'll get some good ones. I'll take Avon Fisher. It's one of the better blue cards. It's a card I would consider splashing in my deck if I had a few Rampant Growth. And the Sky Raider's just not going to make the cut. So there's also Stun. Card I haven't played with a ton. I'm going to take Stun. I think stun is actually probably a great card in my deck, and I think passing it would have been a mistake, so I'm taking stun. Stalking Tiger, 4 mana 3/3 that can only be blocked by one. That's playable, but Earth Elemental, sweet. It's an uncommon. 5 mana 4/5. That goes right in there. Might not seem super impressive, but in a core set, it's just a big creature that isn't easy to deal with. There's another Bloodrock Cyclops. That's a consideration. There's also Spineworm. That's a little bit worse than Earth Elemental with 4 toughness. The 5 toughness of Earth Elemental really is great. I could take the worm, but I think I want to take the Cyclops and push this aggressive deck forward. Let's do it. I could definitely have gone the other way there. That might have been a mistake. But I think it'll work out. So I'll take the Canopy Spider. Aggressive Urge, that's sweet. Like stun, that's great with Cyclops. Pushes it through. There's also Leonin Scimitar, which I could take. Maybe in another pack. I'll take a Naba Bodyguard. Venerable Monk is good against my deck, so I'll just take that. But there's also a Foil Forest, which will be cool to play, and it looks really nice. Rob Alexander art as well. I'm going to take that. And there's another forest, non-foil. But Festering Goblin is a decent card and should be pretty good against me. I'll take that out of circulation. And there's that Sky Raider. Raging Goblin, I suppose. This Rain of Tears is awesome. And a life gain. Nothing in the board except that goblin. Clone, that's sweet. Hunt and Wumpus. It's a 4 mana 6/6, so it's absolutely enormous. They can play a creature for free though. So sometimes it does nothing and you just beat them, and sometimes you get crushed. I think the better card for my deck is Llanowar Elves. It's secretly one of the best green cards in the format. It accelerates me. It helps me get my Cyclops and Rootwaller early. I really couldn't have enough of them. I'm going to take that. Hunted Wumpus is attractive, but the downside is so nasty that it makes up the fact that you're getting a cheap 6/6 is overcome by the fact that they're getting some advantage on you. It's pretty bad against creature removal. I would like to take it, but I think Llanowar Elf is going to be better. And there's another one. I'm glad to get two. There's Millstone. Mill is secretly awesome in core set. In a control deck, this card is an insane win condition. Even in my deck, any deck could honestly win with Millstone, but I'm going to pass it, of course, for this Llanowar Elves. There's also a Treetop Village, which I'd really like to have, but the elf is too good in my deck, so I'll take that. Grizzly Bears, 2 mana 2/2. Not bad. There's another stun. Maybe it'll come around. Hill Giant, 4 mana 3/3. I think I'd rather have the bear. Let's take the Grizzly Bear. We're building an overrun deck. So Giant Growth is exactly what I need. I need some tricks here. The Fist of the Anvils, this +4/+0, that's nothing compared to Giant Growth +3/+3. The toughness is where it counts. So Giant Growth is great, and also it's only 1 mana. And Pincher Beetles is fine, but I have plenty of 3s. I don't need that. Blanchwood Armor is a nice card. I do have a lot of red. I don't have enough. I am heavy green enough that Blanchwood Armor could be really good in my deck. There's also Giant Spider, which is a 4 mana card and a very solid playable. I think that's the safer pick. I think my deck has Treetop Bracers and the 2 mana tricks, Stun and Urge, and the Giant Growth. I can get through, and then I have the Overrun, of course. I think with a creature count of 14, Giant Spider is the play. There's also a Rootwalla, which is very good, but I have 2 of them. I think Giant Spider is what I want. Could have went for the Rootwalla. Aggressive Urge, I definitely want that, and then another Treetop Bracers. There's also Viashino Runner, which is a playable card. I'm going to go with the Urge here. The Bracers plays into removal, and I don't necessarily want to do that. The Urge is a great trick, and I think it'll be great for me. Though I do remember Treetop Bracers being absolutely awesome. But I'll take the Urge and play it safe and just draw towards my Shivan Dragon and Overrun. Furnace of Wrath, it's kind of like a red Overrun. It's too rich in red for my blood, so I'm going to pass it. And I'll take this Canopy Spider, which I'll likely not play. Guys, Herald creature spells can't be countered. Not too great. But I suppose if I play against a blue deck, it could be useful, so I'll just take that. Another Aggressive Urge. So I wish I took that Bracers, knowing that Urge could have come back. But then again, I'll take 3 Urge and just push up the aggression. There's also the option of Goblin Piker, but I think with the Canopy Spider already as an option, the Urge will be better. And I'll take this Defender out. Another Stun or a Hill Giant. I'm just going to take Stun and play them all. Play all the tricks. Plagiarize and Rule of Law. I'll take Plagiarize, I guess. And a Naturalize. Good sideboard card. So this is that. I'm going to actually cut Rampant Growth because we have the Llanowar Elves. And I want to have a really high creature count. I think that Rampant Growth is probably just worse than a land, because I want to play a 2-mana creature every time. A Naba Bodyguard's not good enough, I don't think. This would give me 17 land. I could put Canopy Spider in as another 2-mana play, but with Llanowar Elves accelerating me towards 3, I do have 4 2s already, so I think that's fine. And then the plan is to support my early creatures with my 3 Urges, 2 Stuns, Giant Growth, and Shock, and then eventually draw into Overrun to put out the game, or Shivan Dragon to kill them. And I also have a Treetop Bracers as another way to break a stalemate. And the ability of Might Weaver to give trample to a red creature could come in handy. So I'm gonna go with this. I'll see what it suggests for land. I usually like to do a relatively even split, but this deck's very heavy green, and I have Landware Elves, so I need to play it on turn 1. And I have Overrun, which is triple green, so I think 10-7, that's the standard split for a heavy color deck and having 2 mana and 3 mana cards, or in my case 1 mana cards. So 10 will suffice. So I'll do this. I'll add my foil land, and I'll submit that, and join me for round 1.